VocalEye Almost Live Zoom, Moonlodge, hosted by Amy Amantea with special guest Margo Kane.
So welcome to the VocalEye Almost Live event. My name is Amy Amantea, pronouns are she, hers, and I'm the Community Outreach Coordinator for VocalEye, your host for these Almost Live events, and a member of the blind community. And before we get underway with tonight's programming, I want to just welcome Deanna Gestrin into the space, who is interning with VocalEye and is joining us from Adler University. So she's going to offer the land acknowledgement, which tonight is a video, and Deanna's recorded a welcome song for us. So let's play the land acknowledgement and welcome song.
Hello everyone, my name is Deanna Gestrin and I am an intern with VocalEye. I am honored to be presenting to you today from the traditional and unceded territory of the Squamish, the Tsleil-Waututh, and the Musqueam First Nations. My family comes from the St'át'imc Nation on my mother's side and from British descent on my father's side. And I would like to honor these nations and also all of you with a welcome song from my territory. Thank you everyone for being here tonight. Thank you for including me in this wonderful organization, VocalEye, and I lift my hands to you. They are raised 90 degrees at the elbow, my palms facing towards my face, and I say all my relations, which signifies that we are all related. I hope you have a great show tonight.
Thank you, Deanna, for taking the time to record that. It's beautiful. It gives me shivers every time I hear it. And I learned so much from you in this space. So it's a real honor and a privilege to have you share your experience and your culture with us. So thank you. I hope everybody enjoyed that as much as I did. Okay, friends. So tonight is Wednesday, December the 1st, 2021. And tonight we're proud to offer you our Almost Live event number 65. Yeah, we've been doing this 65 times. So tonight we're going to experience an audio play called Moonlodge. And I've been sharing with you for the past couple of weeks, like a little brief synopsis about it. But I think what I'd love to do is just bring in the guest artist. And this piece, so that everybody has a reminder, is from Soulpepper Theater, and who has allowed us to present it tonight. And our special guest tonight is Cree-Saulteaux Métis artist Margo Kane. So Margo, welcome to the space. I know you're here.
Hello, thank you so much.
Welcome, welcome. Really happy to have you in the space tonight. I hope folks are as excited as I am about listening to Moonlodge. But Margo, I understand that you're the founder, you're the artistic managing director of an organization called Full Circle. And I thought maybe you could just share with us a little bit about what Full Circle is and a little bit about you as an artist.
Sure, I'd love to. I think probably the thing about Full Circle is that I founded it as a way to encourage other Indigenous artists to come together and create work together and train together. I seem to be the only person in the community doing theatrical work There was a lot of activity out east in Toronto. There was some in Montreal, but still, I had moved from Alberta to Vancouver, and there was no performing artists. There were a handful of visual artists and carvers, of course. So it was a way for me to kind of gather my community around me. And we did a lot of different workshops, training together, trying to find each other and create work together. And there were a number of artists that have gone on to create their own companies and their own performing activities and film and all the rest of it. But it started from that initial full circle First Nations performance, gathering us all together. And from there, we started the Talking Stick Cabaret, which became the festival. So we've been going, now it's going to be about 40 years soon in the spring. Incredible. My goodness, where did the time go?
Incredible. At a time where, you know, like, because my lived experience is not as an Indigenous person, but of course my lived experience is with disability. And it's like, how do we increase representation of artists from our lived experience, right? So you have figured out maybe the secret recipe. I might have to pick your brain on how we do that in the disability community, because you're right. It sometimes just takes that spark, that person that gathers everybody together. And then who knows what grows from there, which is really, really exciting. And I think we'll get into talking a little bit about the Talking Stick Festival in the Q&A when we have time to like unpack it a little bit, because I'd love to hear more about that, and maybe we'll be able to bring some of that into this space as well. That would be really lovely. But let's talk a bit about Moonlodge, because this is a piece that's been traveling like across Turtle Island, Canada, internationally. I don't know. I don't even know where to start, Margo. Like, where did this idea come from? And maybe, you know, share with us a bit of where it's been.
Well, I think, you know, I was creating work to tell our own stories, as opposed to being an actor raised and trained in mainstream theater and musical theater. And I, while I enjoyed it very much, there were no stories of Indigenous people on the stages in this country. And it concerned me that our stories were going to die with our elders and with our people. So Moonlodge was one of an early improvisations that I began of the stories that were rattling around in my head, or I was carrying in my body, memories that I was carrying. And I just decided that I was going to create a new work based on all those voices in my head. And so that's how Moonlodge developed. And I had the help of a couple of young directors who were developing their skills as well. And we improvised and we created the story, really based upon a child that was scooped by the Children's, Children's Aid, the Welfare Act, taken away from her family and adopted, fostered, and all the rest of it. So the journey of Moonlodge is this young woman trying to connect to who she is as an Indian person when she's been raised away from her family, and the memories that keep coming back to her of where she belonged, and her sort of search, I suppose her reconnection maybe is a better word, a reconnection to who she was, and a desire to reconnect to her own family. So it's about her traveling through the 60s. So it was very much 60s, 70s. So everybody was hitchhiking, going to Haight-Ashbury and, all over the place, all over the state. And so she's kind of having fun just traveling and learning and meeting all kinds of people on her journeys. And of course, meeting other Indigenous folk out in the world.
Right. And because, we're witnessing this as an audio play this evening, but I imagine that it didn't start as an audio play. Did it start as a stage production, or what was it?
Yes, it was a stage production for sure. This audio version had never really been done. The show is very old. I started it in the 90s. So I toured it for many years. It was a way for me as an actor to keep working, It was a solo show, easy to travel with. I had one technical director, stage manager, and I was able to travel at a time when maybe a lot of other plays and things are hard to tour because there are more people and there's funding involved and all the rest of it. Being a solo performer really was helpful for me. It meant that I could continue to develop my craft as I was performing and touring. It also meant that I was seeing the world and getting to meet other Indigenous people. There weren't a lot of Indigenous people in my audiences in those days, because we weren't coming to the theater. We didn't feel comfortable there. So
and your stories weren't being told. Yeah.
Yes. So I think it served me well in so many ways. And I was very delighted that Soulpepper wanted to create the audio version of it with the actor and director out of Toronto this year. So it's fabulous.
What was that like for you? I'm just curious, and I think we'll probably unpack more of this maybe in the Q&A, but when you take something that wasn't designed to be an audio play, what is that journey like as an artist to embark on like, do you have to rewrite parts of the script, or what was that like for you?
I didn't rewrite anything really. I mean, they had to rewrite a couple of things. They had to create a new song because to get the rights to reproduce the song for audio were kind of expensive,
right?
Because the gal that is the story of Agnes, really, all she knows about Indians is from pop culture. Mm-hmm. So she sings and dances a lot of stories and songs that came from the radio or from pop culture. So it was there wasn't many rewrites to be made. I would say, it might be, and in fact, I haven't even listened to the full show in audio myself. I haven't the time.
Yeah.
But I don't. I think it would. I think it probably translates pretty good to audio, as I recall.
So just before we hit play, because we're getting to that time, I would love to just know if you want to flag for our audience if there's any content warning we should be aware of in terms of subject matter or things that folks might find triggering, language, that kind of thing. It's always important just to give folks a heads up, I think.
I don't think so, but I mean, it's a pretty basic story. I think it's okay. I think it's okay in audio.
Okay, because I think they're we'll just put out, I think, a general content warning for folks. Just manage your own self needs. So if you need to get disengaged, as is with any of our offerings, please feel comfortable to do that. But without further ado, Margo, I'm really excited to talk to you more when we get back after listening to Moonlodge, which is approximately an hour, folks. So I'm going to say goodbye to Margo in this moment and ask Rick to go ahead and play Moonlodge.
Due to copyright restrictions, this feature presentation has not been recorded. Please check below for more information, including links to the material if it is hosted elsewhere.
Welcome back. That was Moonlodge, and we're going to invite Margo back into the space to have a little chit chat with us about this piece. I really, really enjoyed this piece. So let's get Margo in here when she's ready.
I'm here.
You're here. Awesome. I'll spotlight you. There you go. That way some of our folks who have some partial sight can see you too. So Margo, thank you so much for bringing this into our space. It's a really lovely piece with lots of memories and moments and music and all sorts of different things in there. You had started telling me about you wanting to see Indigenous stories reflected on our stages, and of course now in an audio format. I'm wondering about with this particular piece, I'm not even really sure if I'm able to ask this question, but what is this a common, how common is this type of experience for folks that are Indigenous?
I think it's very common.
Because you have it set in the 60s, but it's still, is this very relevant for today, right?
It's still very relevant today. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's still so many of our people are being fostered and raised outside of their communities. So while, and there's still indigenous communities fighting with the governments to ensure that they can take charge of their own child welfare programs, so that children, if they must be removed from a family, they stay in the community, or they're raised with relatives, or they're raised with their indigeneity intact, rather as more as an extended family than what used to happen a lot, you know, which taking them out of the country, taking them into other situations or other communities where they're just surrounded by non-Indigenous people.
Right. Thank you for sharing that. It's a hard question for me to ask, because I feel the weight of that. And so thank you for sharing that with us. When you wrote this piece, I wonder if you, because again, it's, as you said, it's a little older at the moment. But was part of the aim to educate and to bring the politics into place, or was it really just a piece about the sharing of stories? Like, was there sort of an extenuating thing that you wanted to express on sort of mainstream folks that are not aware of these kinds of stories?
Well, actually, I don't, you know, as an artist, you don't begin by, at least I don't begin by saying, these are all the things I want to do with this play or with this performance. It really was a developmental work. So those are the voices that were rattling around in my head. With those voices and creating scenes that those voices could live within, created the story. Then all the different stories were, we worked with those different stories, and like pearls on a necklace, we just threaded all the stories together, and we discovered the journey. So I didn't begin knowing what the journey was going to say or what it was going to be kind of politics. It's just what was there and what the meaning that each story held for us. And then we looked at all the stories, and we discovered what the journey was for Agnes.
For folks who aren't sort of in the know or aren't artists, don't know how the development process works for a piece, can you maybe share a little bit about what that experience was? You know, some of the more technical stuff, like, I don't know, are y'all meeting at a table and, like, you know, chatting about stuff until like inspiration sparks? Like, what is that process like?
Well, it varies, but this one, of course, because I'm not a writer, I'm a storyteller, I'm a actor, I'm a person who interprets the world around me, but not through writing. It was done through improvisation. And then what we ended up doing was we videotaped the improvisation, and we threaded the story together. And then we had a videotape, so we could take a look at it to see what it was. Eventually I had to transcribe the video that we recorded of the stories strung together. And then I worked on it. I worked on it by standing up and improvising and finding the story within my body and the song and whatever, and the space. And then I went back to the laptop and made some notes. And so that's how this piece was developed. Not all pieces are developed that way, but we do, if people are developing with you know, maybe if they're starting as a writer and they've got some ideas and they've got some scene ideas and they have all of that. Similarly, they might bring in some actors and get them to work on the scenes they've developed, maybe improvise a bit and see where the story goes. So there's a variety of different ways that play creators will work in order to create their performances or their shows.
And Margo, like, how long does this process take? I mean, did it develop over several years? Did it develop over a year? Like, how long was the process of creating this piece originally?
Well, I think it was only a few months, but it was spread over maybe a year. We then took the work in progress and we took it to Native Earth Productions out of Toronto when Thompson Highway was the director, artistic director, and we took it to their Wisagachuk Festival. which is an annual festival. It's been going for almost 40 years itself, 30 some years. Every fall, every November, they have a variety of new works in progress, not just stage work, but sometimes dance and various things, and artist talks and what have you. So I took that piece to Wisagichak, and they liked it and said, we'd like to produce this work. So I went home and worked on it some more, and then we went into rehearsal with it. And so a lot of the staging and ideas came from actually taking the story itself and then putting it on its feet. So sometimes we would improvise to find exactly the kind of staging we wanted for each scene or each story. So sometimes, a new play, sometimes if people have a play already, they've already got a few drafts written, the actors come and we sit at the table and we read it. We read it aloud together, we make comments. Sometimes the writer is working on the play while we're rehearsing and tweaking it as they go along. So there's just a variety of different ways that you can work a story into a production.
And as this was like a one-woman show originally, well, not originally, but that you performed sort of everywhere. I'm so curious as to where you've taken this piece to. We'll get into that. But I'm wondering if as you as the performer, are you singing the songs that are also in the piece? Or are those sort of tracks that are playing in the background? Or how did that piece come together for the stage production?
Well, I actually sang some of them, and some of them we actually used the recording. So there are a few, we had to change for the audio one. They changed a few of them, but basically I sang most of the songs. Okay.
So you're what do they call that? A triple threat? Maybe even more than a triple threat. Because I was as well.
Yes, I was trained as a triple threat. So I'm a singer, a dancer, an actor. And so it was really it was a fun piece for me to do because I got to use all my skills in this story.
It stretches you as an artist when you get to keep using, that muscle to perform with. Yeah. Friends in our audience, this is your opportunity to ask Margo any questions. So I'll keep my eyes open for any hands that are raised. You can also share comments about how you interpret this piece or how it resonates with you, those kinds of things. So while we've got Margo in our space, this is my invite to you all, but I'll keep going because I have a ton of questions and I know we want to get into talking about the Talking Stick Festival and all sorts of things. Oh, but now of course I see some hands as I jump into stuff. So let's start with Megan and then we'll go to Troy and Rob. So Megan, you can unmute yourself. Sometimes it takes just a moment.
That was an amazing story. Oh my gosh, that was amazing. It kind of brought me back to the medicine wheel I went to sometime with my mom, but also reminded me of that actually when I went to, I think it was Alberta or Saskatchewan, I went to a head smash in Buffalo Jump and I started, oh my gosh, it was amazing. And I went to the museum there and I bought a story tape there and then I went out to see the there was a little ceremony thing and actually was in a circle. Like we were in a circle one night and some other friends. We were in a circle with holding hands and we started dancing with them right around the circle. I'm like, oh, and it was a little bit uneven, but but I did it though, and it was like, whoo. And I could feel how connected to the earth it was in a way.
That's a lovely memory, Megan. Thank you for sharing that.
And also, it reminds me of going to a sweat lodge once. Sweat lodge. I've been to a sweat lodge before, and it is pretty hot. I had to go out and get some water because it was so hot. I was like, I'll get dehydrated every time I go in and out. Couldn't stay there for too long, so I had to go out, take a few breaths, take some water, and go back in again.
Thanks, Megan.
You're welcome.
Margo, I wonder, so Megan just brought up a sweat lodge, and for folks who don't know what that is, I wonder if you can share with us maybe what that is and what the cultural representation is of a sweat lodge. I hate to put you on the spot because it's not really related, but it came up, so I thought I'd offer that.
And a variety, any number of nations use a sweat lodge, though they obviously all didn't use one. It's sort of one of those cultural traditions that has been shared across nations. It's a way that we pray, ask for guidance from the earth, from our relatives, from our ancestors, from the spirits of our ancestors. It's a small dome built of, say, willows, covered over with branches, covered over with maybe tarps or canvas or blankets and various things to keep all the light out, to keep all the heat inside. The rocks, the grandfather's stones are fired up in a pit outside the sweat lodge. We have a fire keeper who burns and heats up the stones in a big fire, and then the stones are carried by pitchfork into a hole in the middle of the ground, in the middle of the sweat lodge. There's one door to the east. Everybody enters. There's a pit of hot stones. There's maybe cedar or branches, forest branches on the ground around, some blankets. You sit. You wear very little, maybe, you hear a nightgown or your bathing suit or something very light you wear, a long skirt. Women often, we often in those kinds of ceremonies, we have our long skirts. We stay fairly covered, but lightly, because you're in the sweat lodge with a medicine person who sings and prays and leads several rounds, maybe 4 rounds often. So we're in there. They sprinkle water on those hot grandfather rocks, and the steam fills the sweat lodge. You pray, you sing, you ask for guidance, you ask for help. And then after that first round, the door is open, the firekeeper opens the door, you can catch your breath. And then you maybe do 4 rounds. Often we would be, it was really great. We would be doing a sweat lodge near running water. So we would come out and jump in the creek or in the cool water. And it's just an incredible cleansing. It's a cleansing as well. It clears your spirit. It clears your mind. It clears your body. And it's just one of our ways that we have been seeking guidance, from all the elements in nature and our own, the spirit of our ancestors.
Thanks for sharing that, Margo. I think it's really nice for those of us who aren't familiar with the culture and the understanding to have that kind of context. I hear Troy. So Troy, you're unmuted. You can ask your question or share your thoughts with Margo.
I enjoyed the play. It was actually very interesting. Well done. And look back in my family history, I am Métis. If we go back far enough, my great uncle surrendered to Louis Riel.
No, other way around. Louis Riel
surrendered to my uncle. Yeah, great uncle. So this actually really kind of made me think of that. And I kind of like, what? So it's very interesting.
Thank you, Troy, for sharing your thoughts. Very, very interesting. I didn't know that about your background. So thank you for sharing that.
That's on my dad's side. I just found that out just a few years ago.
There's probably many folks that are finding out some things about their past relations and exploring their cultural relationships. So I think that's lovely. Margo, this piece, as you developed it, you traveled with it. And I'm wondering if you can share with us some of your adventures in touring Moonlodge. Where did you go? I mean, I'm sure you went to so many places, we can't even get to all of them, but any highlights or favorite places you were able to take this piece?
Well, I was able to, I went to a variety of festivals as people found out that I did this work. So I was in Winnipeg with a popular theater company, and I have lots of friends in Winnipeg, so it was really great to do the work there. I was able to take the work up to the Yukon when they opened the Yukon Arts Center in the early 90s. So I was the first show that went into that theater. That was a highlight. I love the Yukon, love to go back there. I've been back many times. I was able to take it also to the Dreaming Festival out of Sydney, in the Sydney Opera House. Was part of the first of 4 festivals that led up to the Sydney 2000 Olympics. And so I was part of a whole group of work by women. It was called Women's Business. And there were a number of other Australian Aborigine and one American Indigenous woman. We all did solo work, so we were all part of the same programming in the Sydney Opera House, in the Playhouse. And that was fabulous for me, because there I was in the festival, ran for 3 weeks. So I stayed for the 3 weeks. I performed for 1 week and I stayed all of the weeks so I could see all the Aboriginal work, contemporary work, traditional work, visual arts, media arts. Every venue in Sydney was full of Indigenous work. That means the museums, the Opera House, the big visual arts gallery on the quay, all the smaller artist-run centers, the planetarium. Everyone for those 3 weeks had some Indigenous work in every venue. And so it was such a thrill for me. And I think really it gave me the inspiration to start my own company, Full Circle, and to create the Talking Stick Festival.
Wow, that sounds absolutely fantastic. I can't even imagine with my own lived experience being able to go to a festival that had all artists that identified with disability. Like, that's very, very cool stuff. What is there something next for Moonlodge? Is there something that you're working on with this particular piece? Do you feel like you want to continue developing it or tour it again, or do you just sort of wait for the next opportunity to come knocking and make that decision at that time?
Well, I am, I've been a producer for all of these years. I still do some acting. I still do a film I do some more voiceover now. I do a film a year, maybe. I keep my hand in, because acting is really what I would prefer to get back to. And I do have a piece sitting in the back burner for quite a few years now that I haven't been able to do because the company needs managing, and we don't have enough people yet in management, in arts management or arts administration. So it's been a long journey that way, but I do hope, as we're in succession planning right now, as I'm planning this next year, is to get back into the studio. We now finally have an office and a studio, and we've been renovating it and getting equipment and for the young musicians and people that are working with the festival. And we're just trying to regroup right now so that I can be freed up to go back in the rehearsal studio more regularly. And now that I have a studio after all these years, that's so exciting. And it just means that it'll take probably another 6 months to a year as we're trying to find other people. We're finally getting more money so that we can support, salaries for people. That's the hardest thing, is everybody's gigging all the time, Yes. But to actually get enough money to actually pay a decent wage for a couple of people to manage things, that's taken the longest time.
Yeah,
I hope things change for others, for other companies that are starting, that need to start. I hope that changes, and we're certainly part of the conversations to make sure that that it's just not all mainstream kind of work. We're trying to decolonize the system, decolonize the way we think about how art should be managed, how they should be, how they should be funded. We're trying to be part of the conversation to make some changes anyway.
Yeah. I don't know, can you go a little deeper into the way that we can decolonize these systems? Again, this might be something that isn't necessarily familiar for folks.
I am not sure at all. I mean, and I guess I'm working with the Push Festival right now, and they've had some challenges in the last year and a half, especially when COVID came in. It became very apparent there were a lot of problems that kind of blew up in their faces, and there have been a whole team of people working very, very diligently trying to recover and repair the damage that's been done, and try and rethink how they can be inclusive and engage with racialized artists, Indigenous artists. They already do have, some strong people experienced in working with disabilities and making sure that there is some engagement with all of the communities. So when we think about this, it's a journey together. I think we have to become aware of how sometimes we're operating on someone else's timetable, someone else's demands on what is needed for professional arts and all the rest of it, when really we're communities of people that are developing our own ways to work. And so there has to be some awareness, I think, for all of us as we're trying to figure out how to go forward together. How do we collaborate together better? How do we work together better? Not just because there's a system we're living inside. How do we challenge the funders to think differently about how we want to proceed? And I think there are a lot of people engaging in this conversation because we're all aware that we're kind of at the mercy of a colonized kind of system that doesn't treat us as people. We have to dance to somebody else's drum. We're not dancing to our own. Yeah. So I think it's a journey for us all to make together, just becoming aware of how we need to work. For instance, I mean, there are any number of us that have worked our asses off for years, night and day, and we don't have to work that way, but we have been, because the system is requiring us to do all these things that we don't know how to do, or that we're learning how to do, or we're having to scramble all the time to find people to, it really could be a better system, I think, that could be more favorable with humans and how we're, and how we're learning and how we want to work, not how we have to, live up to somebody's expectations, but our own expectations, our own ideas of what our art practice might look like, and what our companies might look like, and how we might like to take our time with some things. That's the other thing, is we're been in this breakneck pace that we really can't sustain. That's so we have to really look at all of the system that we're living in, and how we perpetuated ourselves, how we it's really going to take us all, I think, to put our heads to this and work together and find better ways to communicate.
Yeah. I everything you're saying really, really resonates with me. This work is so very important, and the discussion is a great place to start, and I'm eager for action. I'm eager to see it, and I think we're seeing it in some, certainly in disability-led theater companies. And this is a small example, but often we only have a 6-hour rehearsal day, as opposed to a 10 or a 12-hour rehearsal day. Because statistically, I think it's one, for people with disabilities, it's been overly taxing, and it is for everybody. And if you have an integrated cast, what we hear from our able-bodied actors is that, oh my gosh, how great is it to have a 6-hour day? Because once you go over 6 hours, you just you can't even comprehend stuff anymore. You're just so exhausted, right? That it's almost not even worth it. So I think this is part of what you're talking about, is whose requirement is it that we have to do this for this long, that we only get 3 weeks to rehearse a piece, and it's got to be 12 hours a day, right? So I think slowly but surely things will change, because more humans will be like, right, of course, I would like to have family time and this work-life balance and not kill myself for my art. We've got a hand from Lori. So Lori, you're unmuted. Ready to go.
First, I want to thank you. This was a very interesting story. And I've read a lot of books about different Indian tribes and everything. So I had an idea what the Sweat Lodge was when you were talking about it. How did you get interested on doing this piece?
Well, I'm just I'm a natural performer, storyteller. So I've always been doing this since I was a child. And my teachers, and various people along the way, they really encouraged me. So I kept doing it. And I was drawn to everything that, I was drawn to teach, dance to children and in high school and in drama clubs and various things. So I was always doing this. It's been my joy to be able to share stories in a variety of ways. So it just came natural to me. I think also we had a really great high school where we had a big band, we had a drama club, we had the opportunities were there. Of course they were all mainstream, but it was still great fun. And it just allowed me to expand my abilities and my talents and get experience on the stage. And as I went along, enjoying myself and meeting other actors and getting more involved, then it dawned on me, where are the stories of Indigenous people? So it was a growing awareness. And I think that is also, as I sort of was coming into my own understanding of who I was, it was important to me to tell stories that were important to me, not stories that came out of Britain or the US, stories that came out of my own people. And of course, the stories that come from this land, very, very crucial for me to feel that I'm lending my voice to reviving or illuminating the stories of our people in this land. And that's part of my mission, if you will, of my life, I think, is that because I carry this responsibility and I have a lot of gifts, a lot of talent, I feel it's my duty to share that with people. That's what it was given to me for, was because I need to share the stories for other people as well, so that I can lift them up and inspire them too.
Mm-hmm.
I think we need more stories like this for other people can learn more about all of this.
So we can learn about different cultures and different experiences that are outside of our own, but also so that folks that have a lived experience get to see their stories reflected, which is so important. Thank you so much, Lori, for sharing your thoughts and your questions. We have a hand from Louise, I think. Am I seeing this right? Louise, yeah. Can I mute yourself, Louise?
Yeah, I just had to get the mute button.
No problem.
Okay, I'm going to say this in a different way, talking about the fact that, the stories here need to be told, but I don't think it's just the stories and dance and song and yes, maybe the blind community's got different parts, but it's telling the story of the world, each different part. And I mean, some people have double disabilities, and it can be like the blindness is one thing, but like I was born with a different one that most people don't have. And I struggled through it, and because of the support I had, I was able to overcome it. And sometimes I don't look at it as telling that story is important, but maybe it is. Maybe there's more to, the fact that, okay, I've accepted the disabilities I have and that, and because of my disabilities, the challenges we face. And I think the challenges we face sometimes, some people just walk through life if they're visually impaired or they have a disability. They might be in a wheelchair, they might be whatever, one disability. But when you put two or three things together, sometimes that story needs to be told. The struggle of the person. And I'm talking the journey. It could be the fact they're maybe, So I'll just use mine. I know Amy knows I was born with no flapper in the back of my tongue. So the fact is, speech for me wasn't just something that became a part of everyday life. I had to learn through someone else to do that, through a speech therapist, and learning to use it day in and day out. It's like sitting there saying, okay, Indigenous people or people in wheelchairs or people who are blind or people who are deaf, whatever the culture we're brought up in. I'm trying to look for the word I'm trying to say. Our stories aren't maybe all equal to the culture, to each culture, but I'm not getting my point across. I know I'm not.
Louise, are you trying to share your thoughts on representation in terms of like what it does for somebody who doesn't see their stories reflected, like how that impacts you as a human?
Yes.
Doesn't matter what maybe background or culture or lived experience you are, that all these stories have a lot of value.
Yes, and in fact that and we're sometimes treated, and what the treatment we get.
Mm-hmm.
People look at you differently if you aren't an honor roll student or an A student, that you haven't gone to university, you're not working. Why aren't you?
Right.
Well, the blind can work.
Yeah.
Well, not everybody can work. You've got to look underneath the surface, no matter if they're deaf, blind, or they've got another disability, or their culture is different, or there's a couple cultures put together that are not equal. Each of us has something to give, but sometimes we don't even see it inside ourselves because the world's putting us down.
Yeah. Thank you, Louise, for sharing that. I think representation is huge. This idea of trailblazing for folks that are coming after us. Margo, I can imagine that you were maybe one of the first folks in this space as you embarked on this journey 40 some years ago. And as you said, you didn't see a lot of other Indigenous stories or Indigenous artists who were practicing and sharing their art forms. And so this idea of what you've done over the last 40 years makes it hopefully a little bit more smoother transition for folks coming behind you. Right. And then hopefully they do that for folks coming behind them. And that continues to grow in representation. I also think that pieces like this for me, who doesn't identify as a racialized person or with other cultures, makes me a stronger ally because I want to be an ally. I want to learn and I want to grow too. So thanks, Louise, for sharing that. Margo, I'd love to pick your brain a little bit about the Talking Stick Festival, if we can do that while we have you in this space. So I think if I remember correctly, you said we're just about hitting the 40-year anniversary mark for the Talking Stick Festival. So can you tell us, like, first off, if folks don't know, what is the Talking Stick Festival? And maybe how did this festival begin 40 years ago?
Well, actually, Full Circle First Nations Performance started almost 40 years ago. Talking Stick is just celebrating its 20th. So
that's still quite an achievement, 20th.
actually, I'm wrong. I'm counting wrong. It's actually, I think it's 30 years of the Full Circle and 20 years of Talking Stick. So that means 20. Yeah.
We have a 50-year combined legacy here, Margo.
I can't. So, but at any rate, well, we started Full Circle, and then probably within the first 10 years, we started the Talking Stick Cabaret, and it was a way for us to gather and see who was out there. Really, we started just a one-night Talking Stick Cabaret, and so we decided it was a way for us to bring people together and put their work on the stage. And so then the next year we did a 3-day, and the next year we did a 5-day. And so it just sort of grew as all kinds of different performances. So it's multi-arts. There's a visual arts component. Sometimes there's a film component, dance, singing, spoken word, reading writers, who we just tried to find all the artists that were doing different work and put it on the stage and give them an opportunity. So for instance, we worked with a number of youth programs. We work with ANYA, the Urban Native Youth Association, and we've been working with them for quite a long time, as we gave them a director, we give them a stage, we give them some, they raise some of their money, we give them some assistance, and so they put a show on every year with their youth at risk after school program that they have called OCM. And so we've done a variety of things through the years, and it's become an annual festival. It's getting a little much for me now. I'm getting too old to do an annual festival because I don't have time to do anything else. So what we've done now is in our 20th year, we did 4 mini festivals, 4 wee festivals, which they were still a lot of work because it was during COVID. So we just had to pivot digitally, which was not my favorite thing. We like live work. We did record a lot, and then some of it's sitting on our website and on YouTube and what have you. We recorded some musicians, and we recorded some stage work, and so it's alive. It's on our website for people to look at on demand throughout the year. We call this year our 20th anniversary, the Season of 4 Fires. So the first one was in Winter Lodge, which was February, which is our usual festival is in February. It's become like a 2-week festival. And then we did a Spring Awakening. Then we did a Summer Sojourn. Then we just finished our Fall Fire, which was Feasting Our Words. And so now we're going to go into we're shifting now. Yes, the festival should continue, but until we find the right organizational development that we need management. I can't do it anymore. It's become too huge, and we haven't had, that's the other thing. We haven't had the kind of funding that other big festivals get to have. We've never had that. So now with COVID and with all these things happening in our 20th anniversary, we're getting more funding. People, the funders are looking at us, are really serious wanting to help us. And so we're going to do, for the moment, we're going to do Talking Stick at the Push Festival. We've got a couple of things we're doing there. We'll do some partnerships because we've been developing these partnerships. So we'll probably do something, maybe Talking Stick at the Jazz Fest, Talking Stick at Folk Fest. We're going to partner Talking Stick and the Dance Center. Like, we're going to find little events that we can support our Indigenous artists or curators in small ways so that we don't have to carry the full load.
Right.
And I would say if I've learned anything, this may be a way for other groups that are trying to gain some traction to create these events that can partner with other organizations that have the capacity. They can do the heavy lifting then. So this is my hope. This is my hope in this transition, that will give us some time to do some more planning. We're doing a lot of planning to try and find individuals who might take on the festival. And plus, we're going to move the festival from February to June. It means then in June, because it's National Indigenous History Month, it means that also that we can partner with a lot of people. Then we don't have to carry the full load, the full administrative production load. Right. Because we're training up our own production teams as well. And that takes a long time. We've had any number of people, and we do have a small group of people, but it's hard to manage all of those elements, right? So having Talking Stick at Push, like we're going to do a cabaret, Talking Stick at Club Push, Talking Stick at the Industry Series, means then we just can work on a couple of small things here and there and not have to produce a full big festival right now.
Right. That actually sounds like a really great idea in terms of being able to get the word out too and spread the love of the art through different, to maybe folks that wouldn't have come across it in any other way, right? you maybe get a different reach. So I think that's a really cool plan. And thank you for that advice, because it's sitting in my brain and the hamster's running really, really fast. You are a busy human being, Margo. With that said, I mean, certainly since you're joining us from 1 hour in the future, Pacific time anyways, from Pacific time. So I'd love to maybe finish off with my sincere thanks for you joining us in the space. I'm wondering if there's anything you want to flag for us that's coming up that we should be aware of, or maybe something you want to bring back to this space. I don't know. You're welcome anytime in this space. But anything you want to flag that's coming up? Or is the Push Festival just the next thing we have to keep our radar on?
Yes, that's just the next thing, really. I have nothing more to add at this stage. I think I'm just looking forward to having a couple of weeks at Christmas. Oh my God, I've got to stop. I've got to stop coming up with more ideas.
Oh, goodness gracious. Well, with that being the real life, story of Margo, how busy you are, why don't we transition to our raffle tonight, and then we can let you go so that maybe you can enjoy, some time to yourself before you go to bed tonight. So what a gift that would be, right?
All right.
Yeah, so I'm going to bring Donna into the space. Folks who are still on the line with us that are community members are entered into Donna's magical bag of names. And Donna, I'm going to put you and Margo in your hands.
All right, Margo, I am swirling the names around. So whenever you'd like, shout anything you'd like.
And pick the winner.
It is Rosamond.
Rosamond! Yay! Congratulations, Rosamond. You won a raffle prize. This is where the late night event turns into a game show. You've won a raffle prize. So Rosamond, we'll make sure we connect with you via email and get you your raffle prize. So that's wonderful. Margo, again, my sincere thanks for joining us in the space this evening, for sharing your art with us, for sharing your culture and your history, and giving us the opportunity to learn from you. My offer is genuine. You're welcome back in this space any time. With that, I'd love for you to enjoy the rest of your evening, or stick around and join us for a social. But I want to just thank you very much for sharing Moonlodge and a bit about who you are as an artist with us this evening.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It was really quite enjoyable. I appreciate it all. Thank you for everyone turning up to listen.
VocalEye, vocaleye.ca. Special thanks to our funders, the Canada Council for the Arts, the British Columbia Arts Council, the Province of British Columbia, and the City of Vancouver.